Hi everybody, welcome to another Spectrum Economics video. Today we're going to be looking at game theory again, and we're going to be looking at what we call winning strategies. What I like to call winning strategies anyway. So that doesn't necessarily mean that the strongest player always wins. So we're not going to be looking at strongest players, as you might have seen from some of my other videos. If you've seen the triple threat video, we talk about actually where weaker players can actually win. But this time we're going to be looking at if you're on a level playing field and what happens. So first of all, I need to explain two concepts which result in one concept being the more important one. And that is the two concepts of transitivity versus intransitivity and why these are actually relevant. So first of all, what do I mean by transitivity? It's actually quite simple to explain really. So if you have a situation where you have A and that's greater than B, and then B is then greater than C, you can then assume that A is then greater than C. So what do I mean by that? So let's put it in simple numbers. So let's say A is 5 and B is 4. 5 is greater than 4. And we say we have C is 3. So 4 is greater than 3. And let's say we don't know anything about 5 and 3. But from those definitions that we've had just now in terms of how we describe the numbers, 5 should therefore be greater than 3, and it is. And that works very, very simply, and that is true in all cases, in all these simple cases working with numbers. But funny enough, in reality, that's not always the case. It's actually a little bit more complicated because there's more factors involved rather than comparing just straight out numbers. And that's where we have what we call intransitive or intransitivity. So what do we mean by that? So a good example is what we call the intransitive dice. So very simply put, imagine we have 3 dice and they're set up different with different numbers on each dice. And those numbers are so that they don't match up identically, but the total value of all those numbers on the dice actually add up the same. So we're working with 9 numbers here. So let's go with die A. So that's got 2 2s, 2 4s, and 2 9s. And die B has got 2 1s, 2 6s, and 2 8s. You add up those numbers, you'll actually get the same total. So what total was that? I can't remember what it is now, I have to do numbers, but they actually, trust me, they add up to be the same numbers. So die B has actually got, if you match them side by side, the probability of winning is only 33%, because you've got 1s which is lower than 2, and you've got 8 which is lower than 9. And you've only got the 4s that are actually lower than the 6. So if you would actually roll that over a number of times, you actually find out that die B comes out the winner in most cases. And then you compare die B with die C. Another interesting scenario as well. So you have 3s, 2 lots of 3s, 2 lots of 5s, 2 lots of 7s. So the 3s are greater than the 1s, but the 5s are less than the 6s, and the 7s are less than the 8s. So if you roll it that way, you'll actually find that there's a higher probability of dice B defeating dice C. So bear that in mind. So A versus B, A is most likely to win. B versus C, B is most likely to win. So if it's transitive, you would then assume that A would then beat C, based on the fact that it's beaten B, which is beaten C. But actually, funny enough, it's not the case at all. So you've got 3 3s, 2 3s, 2 5s and 2 7s, versus 2 2s, 2 4s and 2 9s. So you've got the 3s that are greater than the 2s, and you've got the 5s that are greater than the 4s. And whereas die A only has the 9s that are greater than the 7s. You can actually play this out, and you roll it enough number of times, you'll actually find that die A actually loses. I think it will be 66% of the time, 2/3 of the time, to die C. Do you have a situation where A beats B, B beats C, but C beats A, and it's circular? So there isn't actually a better die to roll, and the better die really depends on which die you're competing against. Interesting enough, so they're not superior in their own right because you have that circular thing. So that's where it's intransitive and it doesn't follow the rule that we mentioned just now. So how does this play out in reality? So imagine you could compare products. I'm sort of going to go a little bit the opposite with this one here, and how you place them in terms of like you got a supermarket and where they are and how people realize them and the characteristics behind them. So I'm going to look at televisions here. I'm actually going to go with food products. I personally don't have enough characteristics to make my point. So we'll look at televisions. That's got a number of different characteristics. So the quality of the sound, quality of the picture, the type of features, how portable it is, and all of that sort of stuff. So how do they stack up? So what I've gone on the assumption here that You need to be at least 2 points different for people to actually notice that there's a difference, or unless the two televisions are spaced side by side. So you have a television over there, you have a television over here, and one back there. You look at that television, you walk over there, you look at that television, and you go walk and look at the one over there. So they're not next to each other, and we're assuming that they've got very close scores. You're going to have a hard time differentiating between the certain qualities, because if you had them side by side, you could probably do it, but our brains don't have perfect recollection. So this is kind of a little bit the opposite of what we're talking about with the die, but I'll explain to you anyway. So you've got television A versus television B. So you have in terms of sound. So say we go with a 7 for A, and we've got a 9 for B. That's a difference of 2. So we're assuming that people can pick the difference on that. So they say, oh, okay, television B is better. What about picture? We've got 9 versus 8. They're too close to pick it out, so assume no difference. And we also got features. So features, television B has enough features to make it noticeable. They've got different features, but you can see, oh, it doesn't have that, doesn't have this, may not have this, but it's got that, that, and it's a little bit more obvious. So we're giving that an 8 compared to a 6. You got a 2 difference. And all the remaining characteristics, screen size, physical appearance, portability, the scores are very, very close, but A is just a little bit higher on each of those. So you've got a total of all televisions, you've got a total score of 48 upon 60. So you've got exactly the same score. There's 2 characteristics where B stands out over A, and that's noticeable enough if they're not put next to each other. So people would then pick B over A. So when we come into television C, so how does that stack up? So there's a lot of similarity. Again, it's similar. So you've got 9 versus A, 8 versus 7, 8 versus 8 versus 7. So all of those just 1 point difference. That takes us from sound, picture, features, and size. But where C has the advantage, physical appearance is a very nice looking television. It's quite noticeably nicer. It's got a 9 and it's portable. It's actually, you can see, oh, this is definitely a lot lighter. So that is an advantage that's more obvious. You can see it's slimmer, whereas some of the other ones maybe only a little bit slimmer and all of that, and a little bit smaller on that size. So it's something that's noticeable, and it's kind of given C the advantage over B. Also, I should have mentioned earlier, we're assuming that all of these characteristics are weighted equally, by the way. So we're not saying, oh, sound and picture are superior. So assume that those are ranked exactly the same weightage on this one, just to make it a little bit easier. Okay, so now let's look at television D compared to television C. So television D, it's got picture of 9, and television C then got 7. So noticeably, television D has got a better picture than television C. And they've also got noticeably bigger screen size, a 7 versus a 9. Whereas all the other characteristics is actually very similar, and again, you can't really tell the difference between them. So you compare television C and television D. Television D is actually the superior television. So wait a minute though. You have a look at television A and television D, you actually realise that they're actually the same television. The scores are identical. But television D has been ranked above C, C's been ranked above B, and B's been ranked above A. But A and D are the same. It's how you compare those products when you're looking at direct comparisons and what is actually noticeable in terms of the scores. So it's just like what we call the intransitive dice. You can win 4 out of 6 times, whereas this time I've gone the opposite direction and made it the ones that you win on less of them, but because they're more noticeable and some of the other ones are not, some of the difference in the characteristics at 1 point, you actually got a superior, actually people will see it as a superior product in terms of direct comparison. So this can be a very interesting strategy in marketing, that you want to compare with the right product so you can actually say, hey, we've got a difference over that product. It's how you make those comparisons, how you make those matchups. So I'm going to look at another game that's somewhat similar in a way. It's just to some of the other stuff we talked about as well, and that's flipping a coin. So assume that every single coin you flip has exactly the same probability of hitting heads or tails. There's no superior coin, and how you can actually have a strategy of that. So what Penny's game is well, in this case anyway, you have 2 players, and the first player has to pick a strategy. So you flip the coin 3 times. Let's say player 1 says, okay, I want to get heads 3 times in a row. To how the game is played, you keep flipping the coin again and again and again and again and again and again until you get 3 heads in a row. And then player 1 has won, basically, if he gets those 3 heads. Then you've got player 2 comes along, and they pick a strategy. So in this case, you've got a strategy of tails, heads, heads. and that is actually a superior strategy to 3 heads. So why would that be the case? Because player 2 knows that player 1 has picked a strategy of 3 heads, player 2 can pick a different strategy that's superior. And why is tails, heads, heads superior to player 1? Simply because if player 1 doesn't get 3 heads in a row, that means you're going to get heads, heads, tails, for example, not get it in a row. Then from that point onwards, player 1 cannot win. Because if you get another 2 heads in a row, that means player 2 wins. So whenever you get 2 heads in a row, player 2 will win because there's a tails beforehand. You'll never get a situation where you get 3 heads in a row without player 2 winning. You can actually play it through yourself, it's how it works out. So once you get that first tails, you get 2 heads in a row, player 2 wins, and you never get the opportunity of getting that third heads, simply because of that strategy. And it actually works down here, as you can see on the table, for a number of other strategies as well, some better than others. So the triple heads for player 1 gives a very low chance of winning. You need to get the heads straight out. Whereas if you go with heads, heads, tails, you can actually still do that, but you need to get 4 in a row. So what would happen, you need to get 3 heads in a row followed by tails in order to win. Because if you get a tails followed by 2 heads, and then immediately you're eliminated before you have a chance to flip for that third tails in the combination. And it follows through with all the others as well. So being able to observe your opponent's behavior, even with just flipping coins and identical coins, you can actually have an advantage if you know what strategy to use. So in a sense, this is what we call a second mover advantage. And this is what I talked about in the game theory video. I think it's a few videos back. So this is somewhat similar, and you're following through that. So can Penny's game be applied in reality? More or less it can. It's quite interesting. Like, we'll talk about it as a second mover advantage. And this is what you get when you have one. We'll talk about the NFL. What do teams do before they play games? They come with a strategy, and how do they know that? They need to, what strategy come up? They need to observe what the other teams are doing. So they know that something's been working particularly well. They're going to watch the films in terms of how you can actually beat that option, or what can be done, so they can predict what their opponent's going to do. And they watch lots of films in order to actually discover what their opponent's strategy is and how they can match that strategy. So let's look at a football game, or a series of football games and a series of teams, and we'll see how they match up against each other. And these teams are not any better than each other, but there's certain combinations that favour other combinations. So we're going to assume that you can pick players that are either fast or strong. And if you're defence, so if you want to stop a fast offence, you need a fast defence. If you want to stop a strong offence, you need a strong defence. But if you've got a fast offence against a strong defence, then the fast offence wins. And if you have a strong offence against a fast defence, the offence also wins as well. So for the defence to win, they need to match like for like. And for the offence to win, they need to be different, either fast or either strong, compared to a defence that's not. So you've got a fast, you need to have a strong for them to win. So how does that work out in a 4 league? So imagine a league with 4 teams. So we've got Team A, which is fast, strong. Team B, strong, strong. Team C, fast, fast. And Team D, strong, fast. So what happens is A will defeat B because the fast offense will dominate the strong defense, and their strong defense can stop the strong offense. That's a good matchup. So A will beat B. And you'll find that A will beat B, so B will be equal to C. Have we got that? Yes, why is that? Oh, that's because the fast offense can overcome the strong defense, and likewise with B's strong offense can outmatch C's fast defense. So you have a situation where you've got both offenses dominating, so you get a very high scoring, and assume that balances out equal. So what about C versus D? So C would then lose to D. Why would C lose to D? Because D's fast defense can stop C's fast offense, but whereas C's fast defense cannot stop the strong offense of D. And then we play it all out because we've used the 4 different combinations. You'll find that each team will win 1, draw 1, lose 1. All works out equal because you've got all the different teams. So what I've got here is I've included a 5th team, and that team is Team E, and Team E is identical to Team D. And because they're identical, it will end up as a draw. Team E's strong offense can outmatch Team E's fast defense, and whereas Team D's strong offense can actually get past E's fast defense. So because they're the same, you have it as a draw. So what happens to D and E? You now have 2 draws for both of them, and 1 win and 1 loss. So how about the 3 other teams? How does that match up? So we would have Team A. So Team A, how Team A matches up with Team D. So fast strong versus strong fast. So they're both stopping each other. The fast offense can't get past D's fast defense, and D's strong offense can't get past A's fast defense. So you'd have a situation where that ends up as a tie as well. So we have A, D, and E all still tied. So what about B and C? So we've got B, who actually is better than D. B can actually beat D because the strong offense is able to get past the fast defense, and their strong defense is able to stop D's strong offense. And therefore, because E is the same as D, they can do the same. So now B actually has wins over both D and E. And the opposite is true for C, because C have got fast, so their fast offense is stopped by both those fast defenses, and their fast defense can't match with their strong offense. So they end up losing an extra game. So by actually adding D, you have a situation where you have 3 teams tied in the middle. You have 1 team at the bottom, which is Team C, and you have 1 team at the top, Team B. Even though that we haven't had any differences at all, the strongs for all of them are all the same, and the fast are all the same as well. So there's no, in terms of skill level, but you ended up with a winner simply because you got Team B that matches up well with more teams. If, for example, we'd put in a team, if Team E had not been the same as Team D, so if Team E, so who does B not do well against? B loses out to A, is that right? Yes. So if you had another Team A come in, B would then end up at the bottom of the pile because they would have lost that extra game without any real changes in strategy at all. So that's why it's so important to know what your opponents are doing and what their strengths are. So then you can align your strengths with the opponents you're playing without necessarily actually being better than they are. So it's just a sort of variation in terms of how a second mover advantage is sort of played out. Alright, another thing I want to talk about is elections. This is interesting as well, on how elections play out and how candidates are selected depending on what system you're talking about, whether it's the American system or you're talking about the British system or the Australian system, all that. The selection of candidates is important, that their strengths are able to highlight the weaknesses of their opponents. And also as well, what we have in Australia is we call preference voting as well, and there's all strategies around where preferences should go in order to win more seats. So it's knowing how different parties align with each other as well in politics in terms of how to come up with a better strategy. So you're probably thinking it's the voters decide. It's strategy probably has more to play with it than voter decisions in terms of how elections pan out. Alright, so I'm going to finish up now. I hope you enjoyed this a little bit of a discussion around transitivity and intransitivity and how you can have winning strategies formed even though you may not be stronger or there may not be any weaknesses. You know, there's a level playing field. You can apply various strategies to come out on top. So what I'd like to say is sometimes a good strategy is simply better than being better. Alright, well thank you for that. If you enjoyed this video, you can give me a like. If you want to see more videos like this, I recommend that you subscribe because I've got a few other game theory videos out as well as videos on other areas, mostly economics related. So it could be cost-benefit analysis, or it could be, or I've got now what I call vegan economics, is something that I've come up with myself. And plus I've got a number of conference papers too, so if you're interested in that sort of thing. And that is also linked to cost-benefit analysis and transport economics too. So there's quite a variety of things here, mostly relating to economics. So if you're really into that sort of thing, I recommend you subscribe and then you'll be aware when the next videos come out. But anyway, I'd like to thank you for watching this, and I'll see you again.